Spags, we've had a long weekend to sober up, and it's time to do a real show with hard-hitting analysis, no tomfoolery.
I mean, it's going to be very serious today because we actually have NFL games to talk about to reveal some injuries that are unfortunately going to affect things, as well as talk about the news that we're buying and selling based on preseason performances. And we're also going to hit back on the Best Ball Mania 3 drafts. Puppies filled, so we got to go draft for $10 million today on Underdog. Join along with us right after this intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And once again, I'm Chris Spags, joined by your friend of mine, Pete Overzet. And Pete, how are you feeling in the bright lights after, I would say, a rousing, but also perhaps too arousing performance for yourself on the randomizer Thursday?
Yeah, I've been on quite the bender because then I headed up to a wedding over the weekend on Friday and Saturday that I was in. So lots of drinking then. And yeah, just about sweated it all out by this point. But yes, lots of rave reviews on our Splash Play / randomizer show that I will never go and watch back myself, but people say it was a great time.
Yeah, I noticed it didn't get the usual Fantasy Life newsletter promo, probably for very good reason, because Pete's shown off the goods. I feel like getting money for being nude on camera for, I presume, the first time in your career.
The funny thing is, Spags, is that wasn't even like a conscious decision. Like sometimes I remember to put it in, but I think there was just no chance in hell that I was going to link to that in the newsletter. I got to pick my spots.
So you got to earn it by subscribing to Pete's channel, go through the archives to check that out. And of course, subscribe to the Splash Play channel where this show is moving full time starting with NFL week 1. So go subscribe over there, youtube.com/C/SplashPlayPod, or check the link in the description to go do that. But go join us over there. 1.07K subs, Pete. So we're climbing bit by bit on the channel and even getting some super chats in. So perhaps one day we'll actually make some money off the show to share.
Wait, you got some super chats on Friday? Did you have to show some skin for it?
No, they were asking me what my price point was for showing nip, but I know I was like I'm full dad bod mode. Like I had that brief diet period, got to where I needed to be, and now I'm just bulking back up again so I could lift my fattening child by the day. And I feel like I don't have the body. Like if it were you, Pete, if I were you personally, like I would just do every show shirtless because I guarantee those views start to skyrocket.
The sad thing is I don't even think you're kidding. I think you legit would do. You do like launch your new show called like Best Ball by the Beach, and you're just shirtless and drafting the entire time.
Oh, hey, I just happen to be oiled up here, ready to do a Best Ball Mania 3. And I guarantee you'll find a niche audience that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, finding people that want to look at me shirtless who are also interested in structural draft strategies. That Venn diagram I don't think exists.
Well, either way, we'll see if it ever happens on this show again. Probably not, but maybe if you subscribe, it will. Either way, Pete, we got some injury news, and I thought this one was interesting. Came out right before the show. Gio Bernard. Oh, that's just mean. Aaron gave $5 for me to keep the shirt on. I guess it depends where that $5 is going. Is that on the Splash Play channel or is that on the Pete channel?
It's hard to know. We'll never know.
Oh, dag nab. Well, I'm taking my shirt. No, I'm kidding. Injuries. Gio Bernard injured, Pete, and Patrick Laird, your friend. Praise the Laird. He's in camp with the Bucks. Seemingly a shot to make the roster. Did you know this one before it broke on Twitter this afternoon?
No, I didn't. I did not know about this, but there was the only thing why I wasn't surprised is because he had done a tryout for them in the spring. So I knew he was kind of connected with them there. And this was before the NFL draft even. So the connections were there. We got a photo. I'll try to pull this up right now if I can figure. Why isn't this showing up? I'll pull it up here. But yeah, Laird at Bucks practice. Laird being teammates with Tom Brady is it's pretty badass. Let's be honest.
Well, maybe that's why Tom Brady hasn't shown up yet, as he heard they were signing him, and they're like, I can't play with this guy. I simply refuse. And that's why Tom Brady wanted his personal absences.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think Laird and Brady, I just can picture it right now. Just the three of us going out, getting brunch, avocado toast. Here's Laird stretching at Bucks camp. Gio Bernard, out with an injury. Rachaad White, I mean, sure, he's one of my most drafted players on Best Ball Mania, but that's starting to look like a mistake, Spags.
It seems like you got to get to that brick authorized 8% for Patrick Laird just to do the brand right and also give yourself a little bit of a hedge against all the money that we both invested in Rachaad White.
That's right. I mean, it would be It would be absolutely incredible content if the reason Rachaad White didn't hit was because of Patrick Laird. Like, that's the one bad beat I can absolutely stomach.
Pete, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm sure that might have occurred to you. What if Patrick Laird's the guy you need week 17?
What if Patrick Laird is the guy you need? We've seen it before. We have seen it before.
We have Eli Mitchell out for the preseason with a hamstring injury. Jeff Wilson didn't play the Niners' first preseason game, so Trey Sermon started ahead of the much ballyhooed rookie Tyrion Davis-Price. You worried about Eli Mitchell, Pete, a guy with a lot of injury history that actually there were some reports about the Niners just having general concerns for his fragility. Now he's out for all the preseason, and it also seems like might be the back who benefits the most is the one that we have not been drafting at all this year.
Yeah, I am legally obligated to post all super chats. Lunchable Connoisseur looking to get a little more skin here on this Monday. I'll consider it for $4.99, but I absolutely will not do it. What were you asking?
This Eli Mitchell being injured again. Yeah, depth chart.
I think it does, right? Because the whole point about Eli Mitchell and all of these San Francisco running backs, and it's not to take away from Mitchell and what he did last year. He was good in that role, but they are mostly interchangeable, and we've seen this play out. They can basically put any running back in there. It was actually interesting. I was just listening to Brandon Thorne, who's an offensive line specialist on the ETR podcast, and he was saying they were kind of have a sneaky bad offensive line, which gives me a little bit of pause. They have one of the best offensive linemen in Trent Williams, but he said beyond that, they're actually pretty weak, which is kind of notable considering we've always talked about the 49ers having this great offensive line. But to your point, like the reason we're taking Tyrion Davis-Price and taking stabs on Jeff Wilson and even are willing to kick the tires on Trey Sermon is we know whoever's going to get more than 10 plus carries in this offense is going to be relevant. And the one thing we're hanging our hat on with Eli Mitchell is he's first on the depth chart. He proved it last year. That's fine. But I just want pieces of this running back room. And if he's banged up, I mean, I think we should probably up our exposure to some of these other guys.
Yeah, part of the reason you might be willing to pay Eli Mitchell's ADP price tag would be that you think that he could get some bell cow work. Apparently in camp, he was getting that work. But now it honestly kind of feels to me, Pete, and this might ring, I forget this guy was on your team or not, but feels a little bit like Rashad Penny last year, where Trey Sermon goes completely undrafted. Everybody's like, oh, this guy sucks now. He's still young enough to break out. And if Trey Sermon somehow breaks this year, there's going to be so many guys who wanted him to be great last year would be completely disappointed.
Yeah. No, I can see that. There is, I mean, he was so bad last year and he was in the doghouse so much, but I mean, he's still probably, I mean, just if you go back to their prospect profiles, he's probably the most interesting guy there. And the other thing too is like, we've seen Kyle Shanahan put these guys in the doghouse and just not let them out. I mean, we talk about Brandon Ayuk, like was benched in week 1 last year. And now it sounds like he's the best player in 49ers camp. So it's hard to untangle like how much of a bust is Trey Sermon and how much of it was he just fell out of the good graces of Shanahan and the coaching staff and never got a shot. And I'm not willing to write off anyone. I will say I've noticed on Underdog, Trey Sermon was going undrafted in most drafts. And after a few of these comments, he's now, I think his ADP is up to like 205, 206, indicating he is being drafted in most of these drafts. So it's interesting that drafters have taken notice. And it just goes to show how sharp the field is, right? In previous years, a guy like Trey Sermon, it wouldn't matter. No one's given him a second shot after what happened, but people are willing to kind of buy in on this offense.
Yeah, so definitely want to track over the next few weeks. Another thing to track, the MILF Hunter, our new favorite, Zach Wilson, injured his MCL out at least 4 weeks. Team supposedly starting Joe Flacco. I feel like this isn't a big one, Pete, because you got to expect that Wilson will be back and hopefully healthy by the time we really are targeting when you're drafting him anyway, target him for that week 17 upside. I feel like Zach Wilson is a kind of a bummer start for him. And also a lot of hopes for Elijah Moore this year. Apparently is really running far and away from the pack. I feel like this maybe that upsets the Jack stack a little bit. Maybe makes Joe Flacco playable for week 1, but I don't feel like it's that major of a news item for us.
Yeah, it seems like he's still going to be on track to play week 1. I don't know. Maybe he misses a game or two. Yeah, I guess if you're doing season-long leagues, like there's probably no reason to draft him in those where you can kind of stream quarterbacks of his caliber. I'm still tacking him on to the end of Elijah Moore teams, Garrett Wilson teams. I think he's fine there, and he's gotten a little cheaper on Underdog. He was like a 16th, 17th round guy. Now you can get him with your last round pick. So I'm not really panicking on it unless we hear anything new after the surgery.
And one last injury to hit on before we top into some preseason buy or sell. Drake London out of practice this week after suffering a knee injury. Injury is not thought to be long-term, so probably not a panic there after people I saw freaking out on social media. I would not downgrade Drake London that much. It would be surprising if he's back by next week. But Pete, I have some preseason buy or sell, and as always is the case, we have to cover the guy who's on the thumbnail. Travis Etienne played 22 of 25 first-team snaps, and I will point out the Underdog article that Hayden Winks did is one I relied on for some of this stuff, so go check it out. It's a great article on the Underdog website from Hayden. But Etienne, Pete, playing a bunch of snaps, also got 9 carries for 23 yards with 1 catch for 10 yards on 3 targets, and that's not playing a full workload. Also worth pointing out, James Robinson didn't play this game in his recovery from an Achilles injury, but I feel like you must put Etienne on the thumbnail for a reason. So where are you shaking out with Travis Etienne currently?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, hashtag adjusting the ranks. It was just good to see him in action. After being a year of playing, and the fact that he was playing all those first team snaps, the fact that he was playing all the third down snaps and all of the snaps inside the 10-yard line, I think bodes really well, because that's the stuff we're really trying to figure out. I'm less concerned with specific depth chart ordering, running with the ones. It's more like, where are these guys getting used? Because even if they're not atop the depth chart, where the team deploys them kind of tells us a lot about how they view them. So the fact that they're using him in passing situations and near the goal line when he is playing shows that kind of massive ceiling. And, the dark side of that is what we're seeing transpire with Antonio Gibson, which is the opposite. He's getting no high value touches. He's losing pass catching work to JD McKissick. He's losing short area work to Brian Robinson and Jonathan Williams. And that's really concerning, because the team just doesn't view him in those roles. They view him as a between the 20s guy. So with ETN, I think it's really encouraging to see them willing to use him in a bell cow role. Obviously, James Robinson isn't just going to cease to exist, but I think with ETN's versatility, he has multiple outs to hitting. Maybe Robinson does steal some of that short area work, but if Travis Etienne's catching 6-7 balls a game, it won't matter. So I just like that he gives us lots of outs right now.
You definitely, I think buying it on ETN I'm with, and selling Antonio Gibson based on what Pete was talking about, where got vultured on a goal line TD by Brian Robinson, which has been part of the reason why we've thought Brian Robinson might be a valuable guy to draft. JD McKissick also getting some pass game downs when Gibson was in, and then the fumble gets Gibson bumped down to the second team. So probably a guy to sell. I mean, Anthony in the chat asking if we drafting or no. We're going to draft for the second here. Just want to make sure we're covering all the preseason items that we had to get. CEH, Pete, starts the game for Kansas City, played the first 7 snaps, and this might be one you might want to sell because it is a depth chart thing. Isaiah Pacheco comes in on the 2nd and 10 play, enters the game before both Jerick McKinnon and Ronald Jones saw the field. Rojo, Pete, a guy we both were buying in on, and I don't even want to make the Pat Kerrane joke, because I'm sure this is probably the most crestfallen for him to have seen while getting dusted in flag football at the Fantasy Expo. But I think, Pete, bad news for Rojo here, and it feels like he might get cut, and this is one I'm kind of reading the tea leaves on, and deeply terrified for our Rojo shares.
Yeah, this one is starting to get real. I would say, it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was like some random Kansas City blogger that thought Ronald Jones might get cut, and it just seemed like he was firing from the hip. But now when we look at what the team's doing in preseason, how things are shaking out in practice, it does seem like a more of a possibility. I still don't think he gets cut, but I'm on high alert here. I think there's definitely some smoke where the fire is here. It does seem like they like Pacheco for a lot of the things Rojo did well. I mean, my biggest takeaway still here is just how wide open I think things are past Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It just really feels like any of these backs behind him. I mean, if you think about it, like the Chiefs willing to bet against Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We saw them do it with Jerick McKinnon in the playoffs. He looked great in that role in this offense. Then they bring Rojo in free agency, telling us, hey, maybe we want more of an explosive runner. And then they draft Isaiah Pacheco, who's having a great camp and seems to be doing a lot of things they want. So it's like the team has shown us they are willing to have insurance policies to CEH. I still want to be taking stabs on all of them. I feel like I've packed my McKinnon bags. I drafted a ton of him early, definitely been drafting a ton of Rojo now. And now I'm trying to balance it out and grabbing a lot of Pacheco. I almost feel like I've gone through these different draft windows of betting against CEH through other guys. And right now, Pacheco is still affordable to me in drafts. And I want to keep taking stabs on all these non-CEH guys.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot, the rising tide lifting all boats. Whoever gets time at running back there, which was kind of the thesis of the play, to quote one great Peter Overzet, I feel like that's sort of where you're buying in. And I don't mind getting Rojo where we did, but I agree with you. I've packed my bags on Rojo. I might get a little more McKinnon as we go, just leverage against Pacheco, but I think drafting CH Pacheco, probably the wisest moves. Damien Pierce, Pete rushes 5 times for 49 yards with highlight reel runs. Wasn't with the starters, but does seem like he's shaping up to be that guy. His ADP's probably come up the most of everybody over the weekend. Are you buying Damien Pierce? Are you selling him with the ADP on the rise?
I'm having a hard time now that he's in that James Cook and Kenneth Walker territory where it's like, okay, you could say Seahawks and Texans equally poor offenses, but Kenneth Walker, a much more exciting prospect. James Cook, probably doesn't have the path to a bell cow role that Damien Pierce does, but is going to be in just an infinitely more explosive offense. So now that he's up into that territory, I'm not quite as enthused. I think he's fine in that Rachaad White, Isaiah Spiller range. I feel like that seems like a good price to him, but he does strike me as a running back that's probably going to get steamed up too high. I wouldn't be surprised to see him within the top 100 picks here soon. People get very excited about these backs that they can project to be the starting back, regardless of how competent the offense is. I am a little worried about this offense on the whole. I don't think Marlon Mack is going away. Both Marlon Mack and Dare Ogunbowale actually ran with the ones. And if Damien Pierce is losing some short yardage work to Mack and he's losing pass catching work to Dare, I mean, that's going to be a disaster situation in an offense that doesn't have a lot of red zone trips. So I think you should still proceed with caution. But in general, like, what have we been doing all year? I mean, we want to make bets on these rookies who can massively outperform their draft cost. I just worry a little bit about with Rachaad White and Spiller, like if there's an injury, the contingent upside is just so obvious in those offenses. Those guys could be top 10 backs if Eckler or Leonard Fournette were to go down. I don't know what the path is for Damien Pierce to be a top 10 back. I don't know if it exists. So that's why I want to be a little bit more cautious with his escalating price tag.
Yeah, that's fair. And to me, it's that we're not drafting Damien Pierce. I think some of the other guys Rachaad White mentioned in that range. I think he's probably a rookie running back people are most down on, like a Kyle Williams, because he's still for the Rams. But Pierce now is going to get steamed up, and if you go to the 160s now, you're paying 100 ADP. It's tough at bestball mania. So I'll probably take some here and there, but I'm with you. I think might be wiser to have gotten earlier, as we talked about a lot of these guys. And the last item, Pete, I want to hit on before we hop into draft. We have to decide whose account we're going to do it on. So I have a hypothetical. Which QB would you buy? Which one would you sell, Pete? QB1 was 11 for 15 with 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. QB2 was 10 for 15 with 101 yards with no passing touchdowns and no picks, but did have a rushing TD on 9 yards rushing. Pete, QB1, would you buy or would you buy QB2?
I don't know if you're checking the chat. That last entire monologue you just did, you were glitching like crazy. None of us could hear you. So just reset this quarterback. I started to hear the prompt, but you were coming out of glitch mode. I think you're fine now.
Yeah, I saw the Wi-Fi thing was down to 1 and was like, uh-oh. But I presumed it would be okay. QB1, Pete, was 11 for 15 with 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. QB2, 10 for 15 with 101 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, but did have a rushing TD on 9 yards rushing. Which QB do you start between QB1 and QB2?
Well, this is clearly a trap. You're trying to get me to say QB1 because the stats are better, but clearly it means I should pick QB2, who didn't have a passing touchdown.
I mean, it's QB1. Pete, may shock you to hear is Drew Lock. QB2 is Geno Smith.
I knew it. I saw through your bullshit. This is your 2 truths and a lie. Well, is that the segment we would do on way back in the day? It's been so long.
That is, yeah. I'm sure we could bring it back. Though honestly, it probably took more prep work than it was
if you
worth.
Wrote that more cleverly, you probably could have gotten me to say Drew Lock, but you even botched that. A blind item, and I still sidestepped that bag of potatoes.
My internet apparently didn't want to play along with the game either, so that's the downer. But QB1, Drew Lock looked great, besides throwing the game away down the home stretch. Actually, the last drive, Pete had a chance to win the game, and it went poorly.
You're starting to glitch again. What's up with your internet today?
I don't know. I mentioned I had some flooding issues. I don't know why. Let me disconnect and reconnect real fast.
Close all those screenshot tabs of me with my shirt off. That should help.
Back?
Not really.
God. This has never happened in the show. My internet's the one thing I've going for me is reliability on that front.
The one thing I'm used to is podcasting with people dealing with internet difficulties. Exactly. Michael says Spags has Crane's internet.
You know what I did do? I upgraded to Windows 11, and that might be the issue.
Oh, we're going to throw Windows 11 under the bus.
It's the only thing that's changed in here besides the flooding, which is not Wi-Fi connected. Pete, I think you should do the draft then, just to be safe, because I don't want to leave the room in a tizzy.
All right, that's fine. I probably should be knocking out more drafts on my computer here. Dylan wants to know why I'm not topless because no one has sent a $499 super chat. That's why. All right. Let's hop in. I had a brutal draft this morning with all the badge bros. So if you guys could just all not hop in this draft, I would appreciate it. Does not appear to be the case.
That's rude on their part.
Relentless.
All right. Check
$299. I think that was for a nipple, Texas. It was $299. The price for full shirtless is now $499.
All right, we are drafting on Underdog. Use the promo code SPLASH if I'm not glitching out too much. I felt so good about my setup too. I mentioned to Pete before the show, I had to move some things around because I had to pull the rug up, and I thought I was like presenting well. Like I felt like I looked taller on camera, and now I apparently just ruined it all. Ruined the feng shui.
I think you're back now, but I'm tilting 1 badge, 2 badge, 3 badge, 4 badge, 5 badge. I mean, this is Patrick Barnes YouTube. That's good marketing. Patrick, I'm going to tell you, I once named my FanDuel username the FF Comedy Hour _Pete, which was the name of my first podcast. I had the same genius idea. I was like, you know what? I'll use this as marketing on this site in case I ever win a tournament. Next thing you know, you're contacting FanDuel support and begging them to change your name. So, but shout out to Patrick Barnes YouTube. Check him out at patrickbarnesyoutube.com.
Have you heard of Patrick Barnes YouTube?
No, he got me hook, line, and sinker with this advertisement in his username.
Well, are you surprised to have a non-influential 107 here? I feel like down the home stretch, you're probably due for some bad luck on that front.
Oh, I'm bound for regression. I mean, regression is going to hit me hard. I had the 112 this morning. Optically, I'm very happy for the regression, but deep down, I wish Underdog would just keep shoveling me 101s.
The 7 spot is tough because we're probably in Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry range, depending on how this room drafts. And it seems unlikely, unlike on DraftKings, Pete. I don't know if you were paying attention to Mitts being at weddings. I was getting the softest DraftKings lobbies possible on Saturday and Sunday morning, where like people taking Kyle Rudolph in the 3rd round, people letting Chase and Jefferson fall. Was absolute insanity.
Chris Ernest checking out Patrick's channel. I guess it makes sense. Underdog, dog stuff. Yeah, it sounds like you are one of the characters from the Best Ball channel right now saying, dude, you got to draft over there. It's so soft. Spags, I am, though. I refuse to get buried by an avalanche. Chips, Skylark, do something crazy. Don't take Chase. I dare you.
Devontae.
Yeah, we're not getting buried by an avalanche today. I refuse to let it happen.
I agree. Patrick Barnes, one of the head. Oh, wait a minute.
I mean, he's got that's not a low bar to clear.
I mean,
he's got more
430,000 subs.
This guy has 430,000 subs.
Wait, hold on. I don't know if you want to pull up the headlines or should I just read them out loud, but he's got some YouTube shorts. The first short I'm seeing, the dogs hate ice cubes, crying emoji, #shorts. Second one, ouch, crying emoji, shorts. So he's actually an engagement farmer, not just a fake one for content.
What is going on? This guy just crushes on the shorts. I mean, this is incredible. Look at these videos, 19K views, update on Quincy's health. I've been doing BBM3 drafts. I could have just been updating people on the dog I don't have health.
So apparently his dog is the famous one. Quincy seems to be driving a lot of the views.
Quincy is the shirtless best ball streamer of this channel, I would say.
Yeah, Quincy. Well, got to get Quincy on the channel to do some picks.
Goodness.
Apparently Quincy hated swimming, !
It's almost like I should have picked anything other than best ball to build a YouTube channel around.
Dog confused by virtual reality, and he's got like the monocle face over the dog.
Yeah, this is still the most epic YouTube account name I can imagine. I mean, Peter Overzet. I mean, goodness.
That's how you know you've made it, though, Pete, when people are doing fake names, fake usernames with your account attached. Our guy Ross is in the chat on his Twitter bio, actually shouts out Splash Play. So I feel like that's how we know we're getting there bit by bit. And a fake dog, I mean, if Pete Over's pet can get views like Quincy, we're going to be crushing.
Yeah. Eric, Pete with a shirt today, no tank. You know what? I'm like, It's not just that I'm trying to get the guns out for views. I do it based on the weather. We had a legit heat wave here in Boston for about 2 weeks. Today felt a little bit more like fall, little low 70s this morning, and yeah, we were able to go with the t-shirt. All right.
Oh my God. Make your pick. I can't keep looking at Patrick Barnes's YouTube.
You want to do? You want to do? Should I just take a Mike Evans share? I never take Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, Tyreek, whatever.
Let's do Mike Evans. The one reason, even though I still think he's overvalued here, is I've been trying to get a little bit more Brady lately. And so I don't mind setting up some potential Brady stacks.
Pete, can I do a quick screen share bit? I know, and keep an eye on the draft window, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me share my screen of Patrick Barnes's YouTube. Just to show, like it's hard. Diversity of content's a serious thing, certainly. You can see here some headlines. Taking my dog hiking in Yellowstone. We're going on a road trip. Quincy prominently featured. Quincy's not feeling well. That's sad. Dog reacts to chickens for the first time. Thoughts dogs were having during quarantine. Pete, you know quarantine content pretty well. Dog reacts to the obstacle challenge. Quarantine workout with dog. And one outlier in the middle. That's...
I'm ditching you, Spags. I'm replacing you with a dog, and I'm gonna record comedic shorts with my dog. I've plateaued at 10K subscribers for far too long. Whatever I'm doing is not working.
Oh man! Oh, Quincy has a puppy. All right. Anyway, they're just the one in the middle. A lot of great dog videos, and then the occasional cripplingly depressing one is what's going on Patrick Barnes's YouTube.
Well, now we're the ones who are cripplingly depressed.
Pete, I'm a fan of the dark humor. Try to keep it light here on this show, but boy, sometimes it really gets me.
Yes, Dylan, my wife, I did alert her to some things that happened on the internet last Thursday, and she supports me. If people are willing to give me money, she likes that when people give me money. So yeah, she's on board with this.
So here's a good chat from Greg R. Should I be doing this like on Friday? Should I just make Penny sit here with me and then we draft a team?
I mean, Spags, that's what we're always trying to do. We're trying to find hooks, right? Like sometimes we drafted after a wheel, sometimes we got drunk in draft. We're always kind of trying to come up with fresh new ways to draft. I think you do one where you have Luca, where you just like hover him over the keyboard and let him like bang his hands and see who gets selected. I think you have the dog come where you talk to him and maybe when he barks, then you make the pick. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we got to do.
I mean, like if that's what the people want, I feel like they just want your titties, and that's the tough part, really. How do we balance those two desires?
The thing is no one actually wants that. It's not our demographic.
I think it is though. They're best ball curious. Anyway,
I hate this draft.
Yeah.
I'm not taking Patrick Laird's backup. I'll tell you that much. I'm fine to take Nick Chubb or I guess Keenan.
You wouldn't reach for Sutton? I feel like I'm the most big believer in Sutton out of all the Broncos.
Sure, we can do Sutton, whatever. Well, I mean, you can see all the guys, my exposure here. Sutton is my second most in this range after it's fine.
Worth pointing out some of the nice improvements on the Brick Caddy, which you can see on the screen with a Pete's account right now, where you can now do a quick auto upload of your exposures, which I find pretty convenient compared to the Excel approach. So I like what Brick's doing with the HUD.
Eagles, no, you're supposed to be moving in our direction. I saw on Twitter you said you did a 0 RB draft with some of the RotoViz guys in Canton at the FF Expo, but it seems like you've relapsed. You're begging me to draft Nick Chubb. I thought we converted you to the Church of 0B of Jesus Latter-day Saints.
Did you get any FOMO for the Fantasy Football Expo?
Yeah, sure. No, it looked like a good time. I did. You know what? I got FOMO over the flag football game. Looked fun.
Yes.
I would have loved to have been out on the pitch there. I think that would have been a very good time.
That is exactly the part I was thinking of, where I saw the NBC Sports Edge photo, Crane looking great alongside our pal Roto, Pat, some of the other guys over there. And that was one where I was like, oh man, it would have been fun to do this part and drink and play cornhole and whatever. But I'm not a networker, Pete. As you know, I try to act, like I'm above the fray. And that's why my brand has been established.
Yeah, you try to network through me. It's going great.
Yeah, pretty much. Some could call it coattail riding. Some could call it networking. I think you chose a more positive verb.
You call it networking by osmosis.
I think it did seem fun though, and kudos to everybody who went out there and had a good time. Hope you guys, if you did go, had a blast for yourselves.
Yeah, it did look good. See, I was kind of amazed at the breadth of events that they had going on there, from drafts, breakout room panels, football games, after parties. Like, it's I think it's only in its second or third year now. It seems like a pretty impressive showing there.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of fun for the people out there. If you want to look it up, FF Expo, and maybe attend it next year. Help support.
Hang on,
independent business.
I say Patrick Barnes' YouTube has that dog in him. He's about to get buried by this avalanche.
Oh, okay.
He's four straight.
Like some other content creators that we know on YouTube who get baffling amounts of views. So maybe that's his pathway.
Maybe it is. There's lots of room in the robust RB streets.
Oh boy. Nothing really does it for me here. I mean,
I say we bite the bullet on Connor at this price.
He's getting a lot of discounts, and I don't really get why. Like, he's fell to me on a couple drafts on Underdog and DraftKings, and like, was there a bad news item I missed? Like, I haven't seen anything negative.
Tell you, yeah, it's because all the Eno slappies won't shut up about Eno Benjamin. Don't know who that would be.
I feel like the main reports I saw were that like James Conner was getting the most work and getting more pass game work, and like Eno's had definitely passed Darrell Williams, I think, in every reporting that's out there. I feel like Conner, that to me just makes Conner feel a little more secure.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with these guys is they're all like a round or two overvalued, but because we're basically doing an extrapolation on their point total and how James Conner finished last season, they end up in a higher range. So my thought with these guys, as you saw, I had like 2% James Conner. He's not a target for me. So if I am going to get my exposure, do I want to have 0% James Conner? No. So when are the times I'm going to get him? When he slides around past ADP. When are the times that happens? Well, when I do a piss boy draft. That's not happening in my regular draft room. So if I'm going to get my James Conner exposure, I might as well do it now.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I like it when it aligns with Pitts or Drake London as well for the week 17 correlation. But I've definitely not got a lot of Conner because he's in the zone that I'm not usually drafting guys. If he's fallen to the fourth, I feel like that's a pretty appealing build.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, these guys, they're higher risk. The running back dead zone does not mean that running backs don't hit in this range. It just means that historically they're less likely to. The probabilities aren't as great. But I think you got to pick your spots and be wise with these spots. And, I think this getting James Conner at 42, little modified anchor RB, will play it as if he's top 7, 8 RB the way we draft the rest of this team. And we'll be good. Yeah,
no, I think that's I like the two-hole guy in his build with Justin Jefferson, Mark Andrews, DJ Moore, Bateman. I feel like he's going to be bummed if, I guess, with Lamar not coming back, but still, that's a nice little double stack.
Yeah, also interesting, Kyle Pitts going at pick 17. That's probably the highest I've ever seen Kyle Pitts go. See, and I know Pius is a sharp dude. I've seen him in drafts and in the comments. I don't love that because I like it when you're doing it more for, say you grab Travis Kelce and AJ Brown and those guys where you're never getting AJ Brown in the third. The fact that you can routinely get Kyle Pitts at pick 32, I guess I don't really get it unless you're trying to say, I want to get 2 third-round picks with my second round selection, right? Where I guess maybe there's not a lot of teams that have Kyle Pitts and Marquise Brown. He's obviously setting up that week 17 correlation. But because Marquise Brown is sliding in drafts, like all 3 guys that he just took, you can get the round after. You can get Kyle Pitts in round 3. You can get Marquise Brown in round 4, and you can get Kyler Murray in round 5. So I guess I just don't get it from that specific spot. I don't really see the uniqueness benefits. It just feels like you gave up a round selection.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really smart way to look at it because that was something I struggled with a little bit. And now sometimes, like I'll get the guys I want if it makes sense and I've got the lion's share. Like if I have Jamar Chase, like on the best ball breakfast I did with Pete, make your pick. Brees? No, we don't want another
Brees. I mean, clearly I draft a shit ton of Brees. I mean, if you want to talk me into Metcalf, I'm fine with that, but I'd probably go Brees.
I mean, DK Metcalf, we heard QB1 and QB2 stats, and I think either way, DK Metcalf wins. Let's do Metcalf, make sure we don't get buried by this avalanche.
Okay, I support that.
Yeah, like I think you reaching for a guy where you have the Bengals stack and it's like, okay, this is much less valuable if I don't get Joe Burrow. Like obviously I reached to a comical level on Pete's Best Ball Breakfast stream last week, but still one that's like, I think it made sense for me and I still got unique enough elsewhere and got valued other places. But if you're doing it for multiple picks, like I think you had a point at one point about, talking about if you take one guy early, take one guy late, like it sort of comes out in the wash. You got to do that a little bit and get some of those nice values to balance it out.
Yeah, Pius says I don't think I would get those guys in this draft. Probably, but there's a million drafts that you could do where you can get that combo of guys you want in the third, fourth, and fifth. So I guess this just wouldn't have been the specific draft that I would have been trying to set that up with. I don't think it's like you're hemorrhaging value. I don't know if that's the way I want to be unique in drafts.
And also, the two running backs, like definitely not getting enough elite wide receiver talent there. Where if you had tried to wait, maybe you get one more of a Higgins, Tyreek, AJ Brown tier in, which would probably be nice for that build.
Yeah. Neil referencing my Barkley Higgins. Buddy, I wanted to be unique. That was just an avalanche draft. I mean, that was one of the most insane wide receiver heavy drafts. That was getting ahead of that. And I like Tyreek Higgins ahead of Tyreek Higgins. T Higgins ahead of Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans anyway. So yeah, that was it would have just been a bonus if that was unique, but that was not the thesis of a wide receiver pick in a wide receiver heavy room.
Hubert Rules asking a question, Pete, that I think a lot of people ask. Do you really have zero David Montgomery? He's my most undervalued player. LOL. Guess we have different mindsets. Somebody pointed out and apparently went through a bunch of our videos, and I forget who it was. I think it's MTN is some part of the username. He went through and saw that you had drafted David Montgomery at least once on our shared account or our shared draft shows.
Yeah.
So that's where you got your exposures. But people are now questioning your David Montgomery zeros.
Yeah, this is a true zero in Best Ball Mania. Let's see here. This is a pretty flat tier at wide receiver. None of the elite quarterbacks are available. I'm happy with Akers here. 20 picks past ADP.
God, I fucking get Cam Akers on all the Friday streams, but it is a nice discount, so I get it.
Yeah. It's so funny. You guys, people get so triggered that I don't like David Montgomery. I guess it is interesting just because I do have pretty smoothed out exposures, and there's very few guys that I have little of. But yeah, I'm happy to die on David Montgomery.
Oh, there you go. It's MTM Revolt in the chat. I got to give him the credit because he was going through, I think, found an episode a couple of weeks ago where we drafted Montgomery together. And that's fair. I think if I have to be your cover for David Montgomery, you provided me so much. Pete, I'll give you the shares of David Montgomery.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh, I hate Cam Akers, though. I feel like he's such a bad pick just because of the likelihood of a timeshare with Henderson. I just hate it. And also Kyron Williams, like beating him down for the week 17 stuff.
No, my take on, the Akers stuff. But the thing that's encouraging to me, right, is the Rams clearly like Cam Akers. He came back from injury last year, and they really wanted to reinstall him as the bell cow. They weren't quite able to pull that off because he didn't seem like he was 100% last year in the playoffs, which makes sense coming back from the injury that he did. But now with another year or another offseason under his belt, I do still really think like the team has also had multiple. I like Darrell Henderson, but the team has had multiple chances to give him like a full bell cow role. And even last year, they were giving Shoney Michel a lot of work in a way where they didn't seem to fully trust Henderson in that role. So I still think if Akers is fully healthy, that like a bell cow role is within the range of outcomes, even if it's not the most likely thing. But again, if we're talking about it at a 6th round cost, I'm more interested in it there for sure.
Okay, I think it's reasonable, and I think the injuries for Henderson last year it could have also compounded those factors, but I get it. Shout out Mike in the chat as well, saying Spags and Peter are a great combo, peanut butter and jelly, and saying it in caps locks, Pete, so he means it. And also Eagles asking, are you taking Khalil Herbert later on in drafts? I have to say, I'm currently 3x the field on Khalil Herbert in Best Ball Mania, so I am heavy.
3x? You're at 24%.
Yes, I have $700 spent on Khalil Herbert in Best Ball Mania so far.
Yeah, I mean, I am on him almost 10% here, so slightly over on the field. But yeah, I like Khalil Herbert a lot.
Yeah, I feel like from the two guys who've gained the most in value in my portfolio, Khalil Herbert, I have 25% off. Naheem Hines, I have 25% off. And Tyler Algier, the 7th string running back in Atlanta, 27.7% currently in Best Ball Mania.
It's going to be hilarious when we take Russell Wilson over David Montgomery here, right?
I think it's a good move to take Russell Wilson.
Yeah, me too. I just want to trigger the Demont slappies.
I mean, he is a special teams player. I think we all know that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where are all the David Montgomery guys talking about his special teams role?
Yeah, people are sleeping on it too much. They're not. Everybody's too busy talking about Isaiah Coulter, his breakout games, Equinemius St. Brown, his rejuvenation in the Bears. They don't have time to talk about David Montgomery being the elite punt returner that he is.
Yeah. I mean, Lundar says Herbert and Gainwell feel like the same guy to me. The only thing I will say is we have seen the Bears' willingness to give like a full complement of carries to the lead back there, including Herbert when he's filled in. Whereas it just seems that the Eagles always deploy a committee, no matter who is at the top of that depth chart. So even if Miles Sanders got hurt, I think we'd see a lot of Gainwell and Scott. Whereas if David Montgomery got hurt, I guess the chat will say Ebner would work in, and I'll admit Ebner has looked great as well. But I do think Khalil Herbert would get more touches in the event of a Montgomery injury than Gainwell would get in the event of a Miles Sanders injury.
Yeah, Gainwell's not a pure rusher, whereas like Herbert's a rusher and a pass catcher. So like I think that's the key difference. Like Gainwell, him running more routes this year wouldn't be surprising. Him getting a lot more rushes between the tackles, I think, would be. Whereas Herbert's just kind of like a better version of Montgomery, or at least like a flat version of Montgomery. And I think that makes for a better 1B, kind of back than Gainwell would be, who's just going to get most of his value from that pass game.
Yeah, so let's see. We're at a 1, 2, 4 through 8 rounds, about to be on the clock at pick 90. We have Russ Wilson, Connor and Akers, past ADP, Woo, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Sutton, and Metcalf here.
Is it time for Montgomery if he falls too much?
Okay, Captain Morgan does take him. I was going to say we can take him at pick 90. That would have been a really nice chance to get our first Montgomery share. Montgomery finally goes where he should go, pick 88.
It's tough. This group of guys, Josh Jacobs, I feel like is the one guy who's falling in this draft, but like he didn't play in that second game with all the other starters not playing for the Raiders. So it does kind of feel like Josh Jacobs is now officially the first back, even though he did have that weird start in the first preseason game.
I think we should this is a very flat tier here. I think we should take Tom Brady and get our 2 elite quarterbacks in the window here.
Even with the rumors floating around of him being an addict or whatever was going on.
No, I mean, the thesis behind drafting Tom Brady is you now can backdoor stack Patrick Laird as your RB6 with him.
You're going to be like, oh no, we got scooped on Rachaad White. Guess we got to go to Patrick Laird.
Yeah. Do you know what would be a fun bit? And everyone's referencing the fantasy flock in here. How fun would it be if we did draft streams where we changed audiences and I went and drafted a team to the fantasy flock audience and he came on here and draft? I want to watch him deal with a Piss Boys audience, and I want to go draft with all the David Montgomery slappies over there. It's a much better trade-off for me. I mean, Lord knows, getting me in front of 1,000 live viewers on a stream. But wouldn't that be a really fun social experiment?
Oh, it would be very fun. He'd be like, oh, well, I guess everybody here is taking wide receivers today, so we're just going to keep taking running backs. Eventually, they're going to stop. But, at some point, who can resist David Montgomery at the 50th pick?
Why are they sending me $200 to take off my blazer and get shirtless? I could.
Yeah, I look, different draft strategies for different folks. I will say one of the most tilting things for me, and I'll say it right now, is if he somehow wins Best Ball Mania and I just don't even fucking get one to the final round, I will be deeply upset in a way that it will be hard to quantify.
I think I'm honestly, there's been a lot of that conversation lately of like who would be the most entertaining person to have win it. Honestly, I'm just rooting for someone with some that will make a meal of it. Whether someone just has a Twitter account. I do think I love seeing Liam go hard into the content space. I think anyone who's willing to, basically embrace their role as the next great best ball ambassador, however that may look, I really want to see that.
So I think, Pete, that I would come on this show wearing a crown and some sort of scepter. Like, I would really buy into the bit. Like, I agree, Liam's doing it respectably. He's doing shows with Osmo, like trying to kind of go with the data tier of guys. Like, I respect what Liam's doing. That said, I think the fun of it is being pure WWE heel, like as it was won the championship title for the first time. And in every stream is just glamorous in a way that no other streamer could possibly do on StreamYard.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably be done doing shows with you. I don't know if I could do a summer of best ball streams with you as the prevailing best ball thought leader. I think that would just be too much for me.
No, but if I'm like, oh, and Pete, as Pete once told me before I won the $2 million, Because like I give you credit on every stream. Like, he got me to start thinking about it more. So like you would be the Mr. Miyagi. You just have to watch Ralph Macchio just keep kicking guys' heads off.
I don't want to live in this world. I really don't.
Boom, boom.
Do you know?
Hey, I'm Ralph Macchio over here, Wes.
All right. Let's see here.
Insane room.
I think we should take Garrett Wilson.
You mean the Jets wide receiver 4? Sure.
I actually don't mind take. I should rephrase. I think we should take a wide receiver. And we could also just. I think fine. Let's fuck it. Let's take Gage. Let's take fucking Russell Gage.
Yeah, I mean, look,
get our Tom Brady double stack.
Yeah, neither of us have a lot of him, so I don't mind it.
Anytime you can draft a player you hate 8 picks ahead of ADP, you got to do it. I mean, what the fuck are we doing here?
This room is very strange. Like, I think at this point, at least one more round, you got to take Gibson. Nobody wants to take Gibson. Like, all these guys now have fallen so much. Like Sanders, Gibson, Montgomery. Like Penny's got a quad issue, which we didn't talk about in the news section, but that's not great for him. It is like a room for if you want to play for week 17 and take the dip and hope these guys get back out there. Like, it is nice values going around.
And I will say, all seriousness, I do think there's a tier gap after Garrett Wilson goes here with Rondale Moore, Garrett Wilson. And then that's when I'm fully willing to kind of zig back and take some of these running back values. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. And that's what happens in these avalanche rooms is the running back is the value at every step of the way. And so then you're just trying to triangulate where is that pocket the most desirable. This year I had no desirable pockets. Here, I think we're going to be fine now with any of these running backs.
So I see a couple chats I'm just going to bring up real fast. Got Michael Zimmerman saying you're too focused on ADP. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes, Pete, that people coming in at this portion of the year. And you and I have been drafting all year long. You've been drafted for multiple years all year long, so you've seen it the most. But people come in and they think they're smarter than ADPs. And I feel like that's one of the biggest mistakes I see in some of these rooms. And why I like drafting on like Boomer Saturday mornings on DraftKings, because they are just your fucking drafted guys who are like, I saw an ESPN segment and I'm taking them. And it's like, this is not the way you need to draft.
Yeah, Michael, do you have your ranks that you get? I mean, if I shouldn't be working off the ADP, do you have some ranks I could draft off of or your top 100 players to draft? If someone does have the 10 commandments of drafting, I mean, please share it with me. I would love to draft off of that. That seems like it would be awesome to have.
He's doing a bit, but like honestly, at this time of year, we're going to get people who come in and say that very earnestly. And I think that's one of those things that you got to be mindful of. If you're new to this stuff, like the market data is the most powerful thing you can use for yourself.
Garrett Wilson does go there at pick 110. That was a nice pick. We probably should have just taken him instead of fucking Russell Gage, but had to get my Tom Brady double stack. We're going to take Antonio Gibson at pick 115. This is out of control.
I just don't get how he could have fallen out of grace this much. Like the guy played on a broken shin last year, or multiple broken shins. Like to me, that's like the ultimate football guy thing where Ron Rivera should be like, oh, like he's a goer, he's a gamer, and should be trotting him out there. And he's getting marginalized in a way I did not expect.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like I said this in the newsletter this morning, like manage leagues for Gibson. I mean, you basically just have to scratch him off your list, but where we're still trying to just get a few big plays and, he now doesn't even have to be a starter for us. Does anyone think that Antonio Gibson doesn't have the physical ability to rip off a 50-yard TD run anymore? I still think he has that ability. So yes, I will grab a share at pick 114.
Also, one guy I'm curious if you're buying or selling right now because he's going to be getting steamed up a lot. And he's really the guy that I think in terms of the highlight reel plays has been bubbling the most from what I'm seeing and trying to track media-wise over the weekend. But Pickens puts up 3 catches for 43 yards of like a really nice touchdown. I think we've extolled the virtues of Pickens a lot, though honestly, I feel like we've fallen in love with various rookie receivers throughout the course of the offseason. But I feel like Pickens, Pete, like he's going to be good, but he's probably not going to be like that great every week. And I feel like you still have Claypool there, you still have Deontay Johnson there. And if he's going like 110 range, I don't want to be there at all, I don't think.
Yeah, it's like the thing with all of this, and this is on all the ADP risers. And I think, guys like Isaiah McKenzie is another good example of that. I mean, you really have to be honest with yourself. Where could they finish next year and how much meat is on the bone for those guys? And you do start to really worry about how they can crush their ADP at their new prices. In the deal with Pickens, like, you have to basically hit a 3-outer or a 3-leg parlay where it's like, 1, is he good? Well, it sounds like we're starting to get a decent amount of evidence that he is. 2, you need the passing game to have enough volume to support 3, even 4 receivers if you want to toss Freiermuth in there, which I think you should. And then like on top of it, for him to be, this massive hit, which I still think is possible, but you probably need an injury to one of those 3 other guys as well. So like the path, and I'm talking about him being like a top 20 wide receiver. He's getting drafted at like wide receiver 65 now. So I'm saying to like massively out that you need so many things to go right. He's still the kind of bet I like to make. I just think you need to be a little cautious when they get pushed up into this range where it's really, really hard for them to pay off their ADP in a big way.
You're coming up the clock here, but I want to ask you a follow-up question because I've got my 32 entries left to do, and I want to take your perspective on some stuff. But we're coming up here. I feel like we need a tight end at some point. And is Cole Kmet our guy?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like one build thing I haven't done a lot of is a lot of 3 tight end punt builds. We do have the elite quarterback because we have these running backs. I mean, we can rock a 5 running back build easily here with this crew, maybe even a 4. So I'm kind of inclined to just grab another wide receiver here. I mean, Tolbert, another guy who's massively shot up, but I guess the point I'm making is I wouldn't be opposed to a punt tight end build here.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. I mean, it's not like we have any correlations, and it is worth pointing out. Somebody who's touting Alberto in the chat. I mean, I think we've talked about Alberto positively, but him playing in that first preseason game when none of the other starters were playing, I think was some of the reports out there were dinging him a little bit. So maybe more of a Dulcich situation moving forward, and I don't mind getting him as our punt tight end. But the question I have for you, Pete, so like we've been drafting since basically this tournament open. We've been drafting in some form basically since the Super Bowl. How does that fuck with your head? Because like I think it's starting to get to me to the point where it's like, oh, I didn't get enough Pickens, and now I kind of want to take some Pickens. Same thing with Dubs. Like I'm above on Dubs, but like Pickens, I feel like I'm maybe 7%, and I want more, but I don't want more at the price he's going at now. Do you just let those guys go and go like, all right, he's just not going to be one of my guys this year?
I mean, I kind of know what you're saying. I do really think we haven't had the Darrell Henderson goes from a 15th round pick to a 4th round pick move this year, where I do really think that the length of the tournament draft window becomes a factor in knowing there's just so many people who have the cheap version. I don't know if we have that dynamic yet. I really try to think of each draft as its unique thing. How do I draft the best possible team here? And because I don't, there are some of those spots I think about. I guess to answer your question, it's like, I try to make sure that I'm getting discounts on those guys that have moved. But on the other hand, I'm still drafting KJ Hamler around pick 150. And I might even push for us to draft him here at this exact spot, or maybe coming back if he's there, because I still think he was that mispriced. And then we get more information with Patrick being out. So that kind of stuff I'm open to. I mean, Hamler's not going to make it back to us in this room, so this is probably too rich here. What are you seeing? I don't mind going Freiermuth here if we do want to start building out a 3 tight end build.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind reaching for Hamler because I agree with the potential there. I also don't mind Chark, but I think one of the tight ends sounds fine as well.
Yeah, let's so my thing that I was going to say earlier about the Kmet thing, and I guess now we're kind of backtracking on that, taking Freiermuth, is I really feel from the like Kmet to Higbee tier is like all the same to me. More or less. I do feel like Freiermuth probably represents the most like breakout upside just as a second year tight end who flashed in year 1. But
more than Njoku getting the big payday, and he's shown something, but always had a second tight end there taking meaningful touches away.
I mean, Njoku, though, just from it's less likely that we see a tight end who like him who's been in the league as long as he has break out. Whereas normally some of these super talented dudes, even Cole Kmet, he was one of the youngest tight ends in the league when he played. I believe he played his rookie year as a 21-year-old, which is pretty unheard of for rookies. So I just, in general, these guys that are younger in breakout have a much higher trajectory and ceiling than the guys who have been in the league forever.
Cole Kmet 23, turned 23 on March 10th. So that seems about right. All right. I get it. Yeah. I think it's an interesting way to look at it. As somebody I think Consigliere was saying, I do prefer my elite tight ends if I can, especially with some of the Waller discounts going around out there. I don't mind that. But I think what you're saying, if you are going to get the punt tight ends, getting some of these guys that actually have the upside, like I think if we got Kmet and Freiermuth there, I feel like you then take a Dulcich, and that feels like a pretty good 3 tight end build to me. Whereas like if we're taking, I don't know, Higbee, Everett, Hurst, like maybe that feels a little bit thinner. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. And Consigliere Beimfor had a cool article up looking at 3 super late tight end things too. And that is, I do so few 3 tight end builds, just because I do not like allocating, 3 roster spots to the lowest scoring position in my lineup that is also a onesie position. It just does not seem like the best use of resources. But if you are going to do it, it's obviously in builds where you're not drafting tight ends until really late. And so that idea of 3 punt tight ends, I think the question is, can you find guys that have the upside to actually score more than 10 points in a game? I do think those rookies like McBride and Dulcich offer that. I mean, they're both in the offensive environments, have the draft capital, have the talent, have the buzz, I think, to finish the season decently strong. The question too, with like those 3 tight end builds, is like guys like McBride and Dulcich, again, I feel pretty good about maybe one of those guys being able to hit down the stretch, but can you get enough production to even get those guys into the playoffs? Like, we know rookies take a long time to develop in general, tight ends especially. I mean, you might not be getting production from those guys in a meaningful way until week 10, 11. That third tight end is probably going to be able to need to get you there in the first place. So that's why I wouldn't mind doing like a Freiermuth with 2 super punt tight ends after that.
I think that makes sense. And people in the chat also talk about the rookie tight ends. And even we saw it last year with Pitts, where like Pitts had probably the best profile of any tight end coming into the league within the last 5 to 10 years. And he still was just like good. He wasn't fantastic in a way that really mattered for fantasy teams or would have put, bubbled you over the top. So I think that makes sense. Where are we going? This has been a really weird draft.
I've been kind of buying this Watson dip a little bit, trying to push it up. I got him at pick 160 in a draft earlier. I still don't think I like Dubs. I don't think he should be going ahead of Watson. So we also were pretty veteran heavy early on this team. Didn't get as many rookies as I feel like we normally get. So I don't mind adding another rookie wide receiver here.
I wouldn't have minded getting the 4th running back and taking Herbert and just kind of skimming whatever from wide receiver after that. Because I do think Herbert, we passed him Montgomery multiple times. So we basically made the bet against him multiple times. That at this point, Herbert on top would have been a nice cherry.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mind Herbert there. Yeah, I don't think that would have been bad.
I wish we'd gotten Hamler. Like Hamler at that pick would have felt nice.
Yeah. I think we can still grab Dulcich though. And if we do want to do that 3 tight end build, I think Dulcich is a nice guy to get that double stack with Russ.
Yeah, I am. I think Hamler people were, somebody saying in the chat, chat's flying today. So we appreciate all you guys hanging out. Of course, if you're not subscribed to the Peach channel, make sure you do that. Subscribe to the Splash Play channel as well, because there'll be exclusive home of the show starting with week 1 of the NFL season. So please join us over there. And of course, hit the like button on both versions of the stream if you can. Helps us out a bunch. I feel like from my perspective, like Hamler really is the one who gained the most out of that entire receiving group, because there was a chance he wouldn't have seen the field at all. And now he's probably seeing, 30 routes at least a game. And with him being a guy who can pull the top off of the defense, like he might not need those 30 routes to be valuable in best ball.
You're preaching to the choir. You don't have to sell me on KJ Hamler. I
mean,
love
people
him.
been down on it. Like we talked about it, but on DraftKings, he wasn't getting drafted in 20 rounds. And like even on Underdog, he would sometimes not get drafted in 18. And I just have not gotten that at all, especially in a half PPR site. Like Hamler should be getting drafted. He probably should have been in this range, if not a little bit later, the entire time.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, you're preaching to the choir. I don't mind that at all. You know what? This could be like Pacheco territory, honestly.
Oh yeah, with Denver, I think that makes sense. It's not Rojo time anymore.
No. The other thing with these builds, the one thing that is fun, is you got to imagine, not like there's lots of teams that could have a Connor Akers Gibson pairing. Like we can almost play this as like a hyper fragile build if we wanted to. Like I don't think it would be insane to stop at 4 running backs. I think we have the luxury to go 5 if we want, but I honestly don't mind it if we end up, because we have 15, 16, we have 4 more picks. 2 of them are going to be tight ends. One of them is for sure going to be a wide receiver, because we didn't get it quite as much wide receiver firepower as we maybe wanted to, or, kind of getting lesser talents. I wouldn't even mind getting 9 wide receivers in this build and rocking like a 2-4-9-3.
I think that's reasonable, because the bet we're making on Connor is that he's probably the guy we were playing most of the weeks. And I like the Pacheco upside, and he could also be getting some pass catches every single week. Wouldn't be shocking. Yeah, I think that build makes sense. I'm comfortable quitting on running backs for now.
What is this? This is what happened in the chat. Mathology was referencing Allen Robinson's significant other, now referencing Noah Fant. You guys can Google that at home. Avery Anderson. I will not be doing it. We're trying to get this channel back on the straight and narrow.
I'll be looking it up on my second monitor over here just to make sure. Now my internet's working okay. Oh, okay. Yep. She's definitely a type that people enjoy on the internet.
Just stop there.
What a way to spell Avery, though. I don't like it.
Yeah. Oh, of course. He's so distracted. He's completely gone. Now.
Oh, she's bathing a dog on her Instagram stories. I like that. With Noah Fant. Oh, cute dog.
Is this true?
Oh, he's a tight end now. Did you know that? For you, he was playing tight end for the Eagles.
I do remember his transition to tight end. JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
You got to really do the full Castilian Spanish pronunciation for his name. What a blockbuster trade right here on the show.
What was the trade? Can you pull up the deets?
I'm sure it was fucking nothing. It's a 12th round pick that doesn't exist. Oh, for DB Ugo Amadi.
Uga is what you were saying when you pulled up Noah Fant's girlfriend earlier, right?
That's true. That's what Avery Anderson brings out, is some Ugo Amadis from my loins.
I think we have to take Noah Fant now. 1, we need tight end. 2, I love Noah Fant. 3, we're looking up his girlfriend. 4, I don't know if I have any other reasons.
See, he's one of those guys where I feel like if you were going to talk me into like the 3, late tight end build, Fant's one of those guys that we know has had the gigantic upside in the past. It's just, are you willing to buy in on the Seahawks? And as we all know, QB1 was looking pretty good for the Seahawks.
We already took DK Metcalf, so thank God we're done at quarterback, so the conversation doesn't even have to come up.
If we hadn't taken Brady and his personal issues, we could have Drew Lock, who's happy at home. Natalie Newman's doing a great job keeping the homestead looking good.
Keeping the homestead? Is she posting photos of her decorated living room?
So I actually looked it up because she posted about it. They were waiting for this toaster for an eternity. And it's this incredibly overpriced Williams-Sonoma toaster that's has the exact same version from the supplier company. So I was like, oh God, she's one of those where she's dating the millionaire QB and she's buying the most expensive version of anything possible. And it's that toaster, toasters, Pete, I don't think there's a lot of variability there. If you're getting any toaster, they're going to do the job for the most part.
Jesus. Hey, God, I want to see this. Eric says, what are your thoughts on 3 QB all from the same bye week from the 106? Did this actually happen in this draft?
Seems possible.
Chipsy?
I've gotten caught with the Burrow Lamar. Yeah.
Wow. That is bold. I'm one of the most bye week agnostic people you can get. But if you're going to tack on a third quarterback in a 2 elite quarterback build, I do think you want to sidestep the week 10 bye.
Yeah, when I take Burrow and Lamar, I immediately go, oh, fuck, that's right. They're the same bye week. And then I recognize I have to take another QB who doesn't have a week 10 bye week. So it's one of those other little wrinkles to keep in mind here where, for a onesie position, I think, Pete, you don't mind the double dipping tight ends with bye weeks, but QBs, you always get one, right?
Well, and the thing too, I don't even like taking a third quarterback with Lamar and Burrow. The whole point to take a third quarterback if you have 2 elite is because you're trying to sidestep the buys, in which case maybe sidestep the buys.
Yeah, that's at that point, it's probably worth looking. They put the buys pretty visible for good reason.
All right, let's figure out our end game here. 3 more picks. I honestly will say I don't even think we have to go 3 tight end with this build. That here I go again. I still think Dulcich would be a nice tag on with our Russell Wilson stuff here. What are you seeing here? Running back or wide receiver?
I mean, I feel like running back, we're done. I don't want any of those guys up top. Fuller, I know at this point might make some sense. We did take Gibson, so we could take Peoples-Jones if you want to take a Cleveland ring back.
Sure. I take so much Fuller. Let's live a little.
Yeah, I mean, you've been buying in on the thesis that Fuller is going to be there the second that Deshaun Watson is playing, right?
No, my thesis is just keep drafting Fuller, close your eyes, pray, block out any noise that he might not sign and might just be done with football forever. That's kind of my thesis on Will Fuller.
One guy I'm intrigued by on Cleveland who, is in the preseason fodder, canon kind of level where probably doesn't matter. But Jerome Ford, I saw in enough headlines for Cleveland where they were talking about if he's good, they're probably going to get rid of one of Dearness Johnson and Kareem Hunt. And he was really good in that first game that it makes me think, it makes me worry about Dearness Johnson because I think Ford might be good enough that he usurps him. But one of those guys has to go, right? Like it can't be them bringing two guys and a young guy they like in at running back in addition to Nick Chubb.
That was one thing I was actually thinking about today. I took Dearness Johnson in another slow draft, as I've been known to do recently, and thinking even if something doesn't happen at before the season starts, that it's still possible an in-season trade as well. Teams have injuries. There might be, and just knowing that it seems like Cleveland's going to have a trigger finger here to move a running back in some fashion. So yeah, I'm still in on that. I think this is an interesting question by Cubert here. What's more important, value or uniqueness? I wrote about this in the Fantasy Life newsletter a week or so ago when I was talking about ways to get unique in best ball drafts. One of the great things about being a value hound is it leads to uniqueness. Like you think about the two ways you can get unique if you're messing with combos early on in the draft, reaching ahead of ADP, sure. But another way is by when guys falls. That's why it's so exciting when you get a guy 20 picks past ADP, because you say, I'm going to have this guy in various combos that the majority of the field isn't going to have access to. So I actually don't think value and uniqueness are mutually exclusive. I'd say they're symbiotic, and value is a natural way to get unique.
Yeah, when you were reading that in the beginning, I'm like, I think it's the same thing. Like value creates a uniqueness, and by drafting, like you could reach for guys, but that's going to be less, less powerful for you in the lineups you're trying to build. So guys falling precipitously is going to have the most value generally.
I don't mind taking TDP here at this price. I also don't mind taking, the wide receiver stuff.
Terrace Marshall for Tampa Bay bring back.
Why don't we know we're going to take Dulcich, right? Should we just get Dulcich and then figure out the rest later?
Yeah, that's fine.
This is kind of an example too of taking the 3 tight ends. Like, yes, we have Tom Brady, but to me, like the upside scenarios for Brait and Rudolph are so thin where it's like Dulcich could realistically win the tight end 1 job there in Denver. And that is just a massive ceiling with his profile. So if you're going to do that 3rd tight end, I definitely want a pretty big swing there.
Pete, I don't know if you heard, I was in a DraftKings draft where they took Kyle Rudolph in the 3rd round. So I think there's some disagreement about what his upside truly is in 2022.
Whose is this?
Kyle Rudolph.
Oh God. Yeah. Again, I don't mind it. I think he would have been fine, like in a 3 tight end build where you punt and then like you're just correlating, right? Say we were able to get our Evans engaged, so I didn't necessarily feel the need to force a triple stack there with Brady and guys who just are going to be so touchdown dependent. You're getting no yards after the catch. You're getting no explosive plays. They're likely splitting snaps.
I think Dulcich would still be there for us in the 18. So I might have gone Terrace Marshall in that spot just to get a Carolina bring back. And I think Marshall's still another guy who's kind of a forgotten young player that could bubble up because of Baker Mayfield being willing to throw the ball deep more. But we might be able to get him on the way back if you wanted to anyway. I don't know your stance on Terrace Marshall currently.
Yeah, I was just want to say this. MT talking about getting duped in 18 rounds. We're not talking about worrying about having your entire lineup duped. We know that that's basically impossible. It's the same thing in DFS. The reason you don't eat chalk, it's not because you worry that someone's going to have the exact same lineup as you. It's that your paths to victory are so much lower when you have those combos, and we are relying on these top picks to be our league winners. We need these guys as top 5 at the position when we draft them there. So the combos there specifically in those early rounds and having uniqueness is really, really important.
Yep, I would agree.
This is one of those spots where I didn't mind. I'd rather just go where I think there's the better like league winning potential. And I think TDP at pick 210 here as our 5th running back, getting us a little younger makes sense to me.
I can live with that. I feel like, just buying in the hopes that he can usurp one of the guys that has a floor. You
could also talk me into Trey Sermon. Are you Trey Sermon over TDP now?
I feel like you should take Trey Sermon just because of the fact that like you got to get a little bit closer to the field.
Oh, normally nimble fingers are, I did make the switch, but just not quite in time. So I do end up with TDP.
All right. I feel like this is an inherently unique team just because of the value alone, but like, not double stacking quite as heavily or not double stacking with the usual culprits is good, but still getting a double stack. I don't know that this team is good, Pete, but I feel like it's not bad like it could have been.
Yeah. This is what happens in these stream drafts, right? Like we know how to structurally draft teams, right? Like it's probably pretty rare that we're going to have a bad structure. It's just you end up looking at players that you don't like these running backs, Connor, Akers, Gibson, some of my least favorite selections, even the wide receiver selections. Evans, I don't take a lot. Metcalf, I don't take a lot. Gage, I never take. Tolbert at his new price, I never take, although he slipped here for some reason. DPJ, I never take. Like this is just, the structure's fine, but the players are not my favorite players.
I think the way you approached that was how, I would say if we're going to title the stream something, it'd be like, hey, how to draft competently in a really difficult room. And that's also not a great title, I admit, probably a little wordy, but still, like, I think you did a good job navigating that, because I was really lost at some points and I probably would have taken too many running backs and I've just gotten kind of buried there. So you really navigated that as thoroughly as I think one possibly could have.
Well, the other thing I think about, and I brought this up to you when you were in your hardcore zero RB mode, is that not that that's bad, but you often get funneled to the same pockets of players. And so sometimes getting pushed outside your structural comfort zone and getting forced into another structure that's still logical, but is going to naturally put you on different players and different player combinations, I think is a really good thing. And that's why, like in my head, I had been saying to myself, I've wanted to get some more 3 tight end builds, because naturally, there just comes a point in every one of those drafts, rounds 12 through 16, I'm finding another tight end there that I like. I like a lot of those guys, and they'll often slip too. And then you get a little correlation there, and it's just like, all right, I'm always getting my 2 tight end build. And so I want to make sure I have some builds where I'm getting access to like a guy like Greg Dulcich and Noah Fant, and that combo. I'm never getting that combo in 2 tight end builds, because I'm never going to do a Fant and Dulcich 2 tight end. So those are the kinds of things of like, can I build smart structures and then get me to different player combos that I don't normally have?
No, I think it's a really interesting way to look at it. So hopefully the stream is informative for somebody out there. Of course, if you're new around here, we're doing drafts every single show, Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, the rest of the season, or the rest of the off season rather. So hopefully it helps these people out there, Pete. And feel like any pro tips for, because I feel like we had some new viewers today, any pro tips for the people who are jumping in for the first time and really just perplexed about what's going on?
I mean, honestly, the best way is like just to do a bunch of drafts. I mean, I don't know what the line is. Malcolm Gladwell said 10,000 hours. I don't think you need 10,000 drafts. I would say like, I don't know what, maybe around 25 drafts. Like once you have 25 drafts under your belt, I think you start to really get the lay of the land. And I'll of course plug, I made some evergreen videos on my Deposit Kingdom channel. Zero RB and the Secrets to Best Ball. That one is all about running back structures. Then I did one about week 17 and kind of stacking and correlation and how to think about the tournaments through a DFS lens. And then I did one on the type of players to target, the archetypes, the guys who typically finish the season strong. So I do really think those 3 videos, just from a tournament perspective, swinging for the fences, building super teams that can win you $2 million, I think that will get you on the right track. And then just getting reps. I know we don't have a puppy right now. The $25 price point can be a little bit more on Underdog. Pick your spots. If you are looking for softer drafts, do them at night. I'm telling you, it is night and day for me on Underdog. If I do a 2 p.m. draft, I think I did one on, we were driving back on Sunday and Lauren was driving and I was like, all right, I'll hop in a draft. And it was a brutal room. And then I do my night drafts at 11 p.m. midnight. And so much softer, and like to the point where it's not even anecdotal anymore. They're just completely different rooms. So those are some of my quick tips off the top.
Yeah, I would say if you want to check out some of mine, check out the Friday stream. I opened up with a PowerPoint again, brought out the old PowerPoint to show what I thought were the 6 best lessons I've had from drafting over 450 teams now. And like Pete talked about, drafting a lot of them, getting comfortable with ADPs, knowing how to work a room. I think it's probably the biggest takeaway that I also said on Friday. So I'm glad we're on the same page. Make sure you follow at Peter Overzet, follow at Chris Spags, follow at Splash Play Pod. We will follow you back, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram as well. So please go follow us on there. Pete and I will be back on Thursday. Pete, what are the plugs for you? Any good shows coming up this week?
What do I got going on tonight? A plug for me driving to go get my car that has been in the shop for a month. I will plug that. Excited to have my whip back. Tomorrow we're going to do an afternoon edition of Club Top Shot, although more pertaining for this audience. I believe, I need to confirm, I believe I'm doing the Hertzik ETR stream tomorrow at 1 p.m. So I will be the sack of potatoes in the thumbnail drafting with the Best Ball Mania 1 winner.
I have to say, I drafted with Herzig over the weekend on Underdog, and I think I fucked his team up, Pete. I think in that one league, that's where I really crushed.
Lunchable sneaking in a super chat here under the wire. Raise our fuel, hike up our gas and baby formula. Who cares? But don't touch the nipples, or do. It was $299 only an hour ago. Lunchable. I mean, if you would have just sent those three $4.99 super chats together, I mean, I would have fine. I'll give you a little over the shirt rub for your donations.
You got to at least puff it up a little bit. You got to turn up the AC a little bit in this heat wave.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's all you get for $4.99 these days. Inflation comes for us all.
Thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate you all. Come back Thursday at 2:30. We'll see you guys then. Enjoy your weeks. Bye.